Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers.
Folks, welcome to another episode of Shaking Your World here in the Shaker's Kitchen in lovely downtown Milwaukee. Assisted by our sous chef Maria today. We're going to knock out a couple very simple dishes. The first is going to be a lobster bisque. We're going to do this as a fairly traditional French style. And this is going to begin with a mirepoix. We're going to build up from the onion, from the carrot, from the celery. You've seen that happen here before. But first, I'm going to take this guy, and it weighs in at about just under 2 pounds. We kept it on ice, so you notice that I've got a plastic bag here, so there's no contact with the fresh water. I just want to keep it as a separate entity. So in order to keep the tail from curling over as the protein sees up, I'm going to stick this long skewer up inside of it, first to make sure that it doesn't suffer more than it needs to. We are going to kill the lobster by putting a blade right through the carapace. There will be some motion taking place, but I can assure you he is dead at this point. So that'll keep that relatively straight. If we take a pan, and if you'd be so kind as to put that in the oven, just like that, and we'll let it go for about 5 minutes or so. So you got this in a 550 degree oven. Now over here, we're just going to do a real simple little dice. If you want to have at this, Maria, please feel free. And we're just going to bust this down and get ourselves, again, the essence for a mirepoix, which is equal parts of carrot and celery and onion. This time we're using a hybrid. It's not a yellow, not a white onion. And we got just a real simple little celery that I'm going to keep unpeeled. I just want this for the flavors. So because we're just doing one lobster, we don't need a great amount. So equal parts of this would be pretty good. And we're going to toss that into a saute pan. A little bit of oil. I just want to soften this down. So that's going to work that way for about 5 to 7 minutes, somewhere in there. We're kind of done with these things. They could exit. We got just some boiling water here because when I pull this lobster out of here, I'm going to take the meat out, or one of us will take the meat out. And then we're going to take the shell and everything inside the carapace. So both the brain tissue, if you will, the lung tissue, all the guts that are inside of this thing are going to be a very important part of our stock, which is going to make our bisque. If you're squeamish about that, the reality is this is how it's done. But if you don't want to use those parts, you don't have to. You also don't have to bake this or roast this if you prefer not to. Many people just put this in the water itself, let it reduce down. You could do that. I just think you have a cleaner, fresher taste without getting that little rubbery kind of complexion that can take place when you take any crustacean shell and boil it too far. So we're starting to sizzle here, and just to be expedient about this, we're going to get a little butter in here because butter will be playing a very important part of all the bisque components. So I have our trusty blender right here, the beautiful Vitamix that's essential in everyone's kitchen. And in lieu of like an immersion blender, we're going to do this kind of backwards, but we're going to blend this up this way. And it should give us a really nice, soft, velvety, complected product. Another change that we're doing today that you might or might not otherwise experience, when I've been in France, I've had this done with cognac. I'm equally happily doing this with sherry, whichever you prefer. They both add marvelous flavors to it. We're going to use that to deglaze the pan at some point. So it's important that we, just enjoy the joy of cooking as much as you can for ourselves, the people that we're cooking for. We don't have to follow specific recipes. Just kind of use the ingredients that you have, use the style that you have. Maria, would you do me a favor? Take a look at that guy and see how he or she is doing. Just beginning, probably? Okay. Well, at this point, we're on its schedule. So the density of all lobsters of all things is a little bit different from one to the next. They're going to cook at slightly different rates. Again, we're at 550 degrees or so, and it takes as long as it takes. That being said, we can think about doing the mussels. If I could have another pan, please. Large grande. So you notice that mussels, these came from Prince Edward Island, but I've got an ice bath underneath as well. It's important working with any seafood, almost any protein actually, maybe not beef so much, chicken certainly, but seafood and more than anything else. We're going to take a large saute pan, we're going to get that going, some olive oil and some garlic, just really traditional flavors. There's no real magic that goes on with this either. Just taking the step to do something really, in my mind, is where everything's at. So again, I got an ice bath underneath. We're not making direct contact because, just like with the lobster, these are from the ocean, and ocean is salt water, and the ice, at least the ice that we have in house, is going to be fresh water. If you expose them to that, they will drown and suffocate. We don't want that to happen because all sorts of nasty things are released, like adrenaline, that is going to colorize the flavors of what's going on here. So, real simple, just garlic, olive oil. I'm not going to use butter on this one at all. I'm going to push some oregano in here. A lot of oregano and tarragon as well. And then we're going to use white wine a little bit on the front side, but mostly on the back side to deglaze this. So we're going to do a little steaming aspect with this. So if you don't mind, let's get this thing cut open and let's get a dozen or so in here. And then we'll take another pan and put that on top. So the recently harvested from Prince Edward Island, which is as far north as you can go in the Atlantic, frigid waters. If you tap an oyster, if it's open and you tap it and it closes, it's good. If you tap it and it stays open, then it's not good. You should just discard those. They're inexpensive enough. So, closed oyster. Beautiful. Oops. Push our temperature a little bit. Once it starts to get moving, I'm going to put another pan on top, which will be steaming this, which will facilitate the cooking process. So, right here, our mirepoix is doing very nicely. Bring it down a little bit. Now I'm going to get some garlic in here. I didn't want garlic on the front side because the prolonged cooking that the cellulose takes here, both in the carrot and in certainly in the celery and the onion, is beyond the point where I want to cook this garlic. I don't want it to burn because burnt or scorched garlic is very bitter, and we're not looking for bitter. So we're looking for, this is nice, it's caramelized, we've got a little color going on here. So in my mind, the more of this light tan or brown hue you've got, the more flavor you've got going on. So we can actually pop that off at the moment. Our boiling water is still boiling away. This is where the other parts are going to go. We're going to drag the bulk of the flavor from. Yum. All right, so this guy is really hot. So you don't want to hurt yourself doing this. And the other thing about these claws is that they're sharp. Not so much about getting my hand stuck inside right now, but certainly just the little points that they have on them will dig into your flesh as well. So what I'd like to do is to pull this off the pan. Kind of put that on the side for a moment. Pull our skewer out. You can rip off or cut off the tail section. Either way is fine. And this is all the tatami. This is all the innards and the guts. And some people think this is really a specialty. And it will be a very important part of our bisque, but it's not necessarily what I want to work with right now. So if you'd be so kind as to cut this and take this out, we'll save our shell. Keep our meat separate. So the shell is going to go right in our water. The innards are going to go in our water. Some people like to suck out these legs. I think they're a little bit too small to play with. That's all going to go in there. Again, there are multiple ways to make this. This is just kind of a general guide to get you in the thought pattern that you too can do this at home and get great results from it. So we're at 500 degrees right now for our pan temperature. I'm going to back this down to about 320. I'm going to take just another saute pan as a cover or a lid and put that on top. That's going to create kind of this steaming effect. That's going to facilitate the cooking of that. So this is the part before the claw, just a joint, a knuckle joint. We can extract the meat from the claws as well, and take those claws and stick them into this as well. Once upon a time, we would do these monstrous sauces, reduction sauces that would take 3 days of cooking. These beautiful demi-glaces we'd have in our kitchen upstairs and just cooking away, cooking away. This is not one of those things that you have to do that with. We're not looking to extract marrow or any other gelatinous things that come out of shells. So seafood in many ways is easier to work with. This is really smelling marvelous. It's a shame you can't be able to experience it. So I just want this to go for a couple of minutes here. If we could pop these open, that'll be great too. And then I'm going to strain this off. I'm going to reduce our liquid down, and then I'm going to also take our mirepoix. We're going to put that in the blender. I'm going to mulch that down. I'm going to add this into this mix. So it's all going to be one big mulched thing together. You're going to be very happy. And now that the mirepoix is merging with those parts of the carapace of the shell of the oyster, or rather the lobster, it's just exquisite smelling in here. Excuse me. Yum, 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 yum. All right. Excuse me. And while Marie's working on that, back to our mussels. They've all opened nicely. Little white wine. In this case, it's a Graf Sauvignon Blanc. Going to let that all work together, so we're still continuing to steam. If you're in doubt about how far to cook those, you can just take your finger and touch them lightly, and they should be. Whereas once upon a time when they were alive, they were really wet, really moist, and now they've got some pushback to them, so they're not tough and rubbery by any stretch of the imagination, but they do have just a really nice texture to them. This would be great with some sauteed spinach, or any green actually. There's no end to what you could put along with these. We do several Spanish styles that are cooked off with tomatoes and onions, and they are marvelous. So anything you want to have in here, go for it. There is no set rule as to what you can and can't do. If you find yourself in a position now that you've cooked all these off and something has not opened up, That's something you don't want to serve. So those again you discard. So the rule of thumb is for every dozen that we do, we generally would have an extra 2 in the pan. Again, they are very inexpensive. And so incredibly tasty. And they just take minutes to do. While your friends do this, it's a lovely appetizer, or you can do mussels along with a linguine or something of that nature as well. There's really no end to what you can do with seafood. Simple dish, black mussels from Prince Edward Island. Hope you enjoy that. Cheers. So as it came out of the oven, we had roasted this. It had these lovely orange and brownie complexions to it. Now it's got a very deep orange to it. So we continue to cook out all the nutrients you want, all the flavors, all the components that are coming out of here. How are we doing over here? Good. So as you can see also that when this lobster tail was in, though I certainly am not opposed to eating lobster, which is medium complected like this is, we are going to end up cutting this down and putting this inside of our bisque as well. So a bisque can both be with and without parts. Generally, it's, well, there is no generalization anymore. People like different things. So if you like yours to be chunkier, by all means, put the lobster inside of it. If you like it to be a little bit thinner bodied, there's no need to, because all the flavor is already here. Could I have the parts, please? Just a minute. Thank you. I want to get as much love out of this as we possibly can, but again, this is how they came out of just being roasted, so they're very dark like this. And then after being here in the water, they take on that orange. So what we're going to do in just a moment is we're going to take this other pot and we're going to strain off our solids into here. And just to make sure we got it incredibly smooth, we're going to put it through our blender just to work it down. I think a little more garlic might be in order here. At some point we are going to get in other parts like this, so I'm going to take the sun-dried tomatoes that we've got. You can make your own sun-dried tomatoes, by the way. They're not actually sun-dried at that point, but you can dry your own tomatoes. Just have your oven at home idling away at night on a warm, so it's going to be summers around 165, 175 degrees, door open, and just put these on a sheet pan. I prefer to use Roma tomatoes, and overnight they're just going to dry out, and yet they're still succulent like this, and they're perfect, and they have such an incredible, intense flavor. We will augment this with a little tomato paste, but I think having sun-dried tomatoes gives it a completely different flavor profile. So these things, along with some paprika, real simple Spanish smoked paprika, is just going to go inside of our blender. And right now, if you'd hold my handle, thank you, ma'am. Oh, excuse me. So we're just going to strain this off. And there we are with this. We'll let this cook just the way it is for a moment to reduce that a bit. It's going to go in our blender. But I'm also going to take our lobster, because our objective today is to have these little parts that are in there. Again, you needn't do this. You could have the lobster as your center of plate and have a bisque as a first course. That does not have it in. So this will continue cooking in our stock. Yum. on your lowest speed. There is some expansion here. You don't want this to blow out, even though Vitamix has these nice little hooky type things on the top. Now at that point, always smell your cream, heavy cream. You're gonna let that work together for a few minutes. May I have 2 tablespoons of the paste? Pizza sauce, tomato. Please. Thank you, Maria. Almost where I want it to be. I think that tastes lovely. We reduced down a little bit. I'm going to get just a little bit of the cognac in there. I'm going to give it one more little blast in the blender, and then we'll serve. Why am I doing this? Because I'm getting more air moved into the mix. And the air, of course, makes everything taste better. If you cut things, as we talk about in these, as finely as possible, no matter what it is that you're cooking, you cook it as fine as possible, you're going to have more flavor out of something than the big coarse chunks. More interaction with the air. I give you lobster biscuit shakers. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers.